Okay, so this is kind of where we left off. It seems counterintuitive, but we're actually going to work with Illustrator now. So let's go ahead and launch Illustrator. I don't have it in my dock for some reason, so I need to go into my applications, Illustrator, double click on that to launch it. And I can do the right click or control click options, keep in dock, so I don't have to go looking for it again. I'm going to wait for that to launch. Okay, so here we are. Let's go to New File. We can also go File, New Document from the top menu, but let's go to Print. Let's just go to letter size. We can also put this on inches, but it needs to be 8.5 by 11. CMYK color mode, so open up Advanced Options, put it in CMYK color mode, and the raster effect should be high. Everything should look like this. Push Create, and here's our document. Make sure you're in Window Workspace Essentials Classic. And you can expand your toolbar to match mine if you need to. We're just going to do a file place. We're going to bring in one of the images from the demo folder. We're going to bring in the Bob Dylan logo.png file. So go ahead and push place. Click and drag that in, let up on your cursor when you get it the size you want it to be. And we can actually do an image trace on that in the Properties panel under Quick Actions. So let's go to black and white logo, push OK, and expand. So now if we actually drag this out with the black arrow tool in Illustrator, you can see that it is vector, that it has a white background that's brought in, but you can see all the anchor points. So the reason why we're working with Illustrator and InDesign is that InDesign is a layout program and it's meant to be used with the other programs. So they all are like three pieces of a jigsaw puzzle that all fit together. And InDesign is kind of like the mother, and then Photoshop and Illustrator typically support the designs in InDesign, the layouts in InDesign, because InDesign is a layout program. So, and Photoshop is a photo editing program, and then Illustrator is an illustration program or a logo building program. So I have this vector Bob Dylan logo. We did the image trace on it. We deleted the backgrounds with the white arrow tools. We deleted the little shapes inside of the letter forms as well. The white areas we've deleted. Let's go ahead and use the black arrow tool. Select this so it selects all at one time. Let's do Command C for copy, or Control C on a Windows. Let's go back to InDesign. And we're on page 1 still, so let's do a Command V. And that's going to bring in that Bob Dylan logo. But it's way too big, so we need to size it down using this free transform tool. It's about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th down from the white arrow tool. Let's push Shift on our keyboard and drag from the corner to bring this down in size. And it needs to be maybe 2 inches wide by about 1.3 inches tall-ish. Let's use the black arrow tool to move it up. And it's black right now, it's not showing up on our image very well, but if we go to the Properties panel and expand that, we can go to the fill color, click on the black square, and let's just use the preloaded red color in here. And let's just move it kind of down over here. And I'm actually going to make it just well, we can make it a little bit smaller, pushing Shift with the free transform tool, maybe a little bit smaller. Okay, that's looking pretty good. And then let's go to the PDF file in our downloads in the folder that and it's the text PDF file. So let's double click on that to launch that. Mine opens in Acrobat Pro. You may not have Acrobat Pro, but whatever program it opens up in. We just want to copy paste text from this PDF document. We're going to copy paste poet and musician with the ampersand. You can also just type this in, but I want to show you that if you get a Word document, if you get a PDF file, a lot of times people that work in InDesign work in multiple programs, piecing together their layouts. So let's do a Command C to copy that text, and let's go back into InDesign, and we're going to use the text tool, which looks like a T. It's actually the type tool. And let's click on that, and click and drag out a text box underneath Bob Dylan, about in this area. Let up, and then just do Command V. So that actually did fill in our text box. If we double click or triple click into that, we can highlight everything You can also do a Command A for select all while you're in your text box with the cursor. And let's change that to that. Go back to the properties panel. We can go to the fill color on the text, and we can change it to that preloaded red color in the swatches panel. And let's go ahead and double click on this again, and actually, that's probably pretty good. Let's just go ahead and move it kind of so it's lining up. The two ends need to line up pretty well. We're going to kind of nest that in there, close to Bob Dylan. Not quite exactly the placement I'm wanting, but not bad. Okay, so let's go to page 2 now. So the pages panel is here at the top. Looks like 2 pages next to each other. Click on that. Let's double click on page 2. So let's push W, and let's open up our layers, and let's turn off the template for now. We still want to be in the design layer, but we just want to turn the eyeball off in the template. Let's grab the frame tool once again. We're going to do that same thing we did on the first page. We're going to click and drag out a box large enough to fill all the way to the edge of the bleed line. If you can't see the bleed line, you're probably going to have to push W on your keyboard. So using that frame tool, drag that out. Let's do a file, place, and we'll bring in the Bob Dylan illustration.jpg file now. Go ahead and open that, and it's huge. So if we go into the properties panel, this is where that auto fit is really going to come in handy for us. Or actually, fill frame proportionally actually works pretty well. So maybe click on that to get that to work. And yeah, that looks pretty good. I would like it to be more towards the side. So let's use the white arrow tool and select our image, and let's just move it over. I can even use my arrow tool. Let's push W. We want the black to go the black of the image to go all the way to that red bleed line. So make sure you have W pushed so that you can see your bleed line, and make sure that you've got the white arrow tool, that you've selected the JPEG within the frame that we've created with the frame tool. And let's just move that black over to the red bleed line. So that's looking pretty good. We definitely have our image going all the way to the bleed. If we push W, you can see where it's going to be trimmed down to when it's finally printed. There's a little bit of white here. So let's go back to the text file in the demo folder. So we got to double click on that. Let's bring in the contact information, phone number, and C, email, and website. So let's go to the text tool, click and drag out a text box, a fairly large one, about that size, Command V. Let's take off the HTTPS by deleting that. That's just extra stuff we don't need. Let's highlight all this. Let's go to this properties panel and go to the fill color on the text. And let's make it that same red color that we used on the front page. Let's bring the size down to 9. Underneath character in the properties panel, much the same place where we found it in Illustrator. Let's actually use the black arrow tool to drag out the sides of our text box to the width of the business card. And let's scroll down. Using the scroll bar is the best way to scroll down. And go down to paragraph, and let's center align our paragraph. So this is center aligned, and then let's double click inside right before bobdylan@yahoo.com, and let's push delete space and then option 8 and then another space. So basically we're just putting this all on one line, and we're putting an option 8. We push down on those at the same time on our keyboard to create the nice little dot that we can get. If you push shift on your keyboard and the down arrow at the same time, it will move in increments of 10. So it'll move everything a little bit quicker. So let's just put it like right here. That's looking pretty good. All on one line, it looks a little cleaner. And then, yeah, that's looking pretty good. We also want to bring in our quote, which, you're going to have to do a slogan when you create your business card, but that's going to be in our text file once again. So here's the quote that we have that we need to Command C or Control on a Windows, and then Command or Control V. So click and drag out a text box before you do Control V or Command V. And let's just double click or Command A within there to select all. And let's change that once again to that same preloaded red color. One thing about this too is I didn't put a period in here, so let's go ahead and put a period. In between the quote and the T, let's go ahead and push Command backspace, or Control backspace, I believe, on a Windows machine. That will line everything up really nicely. And let's just make this so that this all fits together on 2 lines. And I do want this text box to be lining up with this text to be lining up with this text, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to actually move it over so that visually it's looking like these 2 things are lining up pretty well. I'm going to actually put this on 3 lines because I don't really want it overlapping the image of Bob Dylan too much. If I'm starting to get these hyphenations too, we can actually go into the Properties panel, scroll down, and underneath Paragraph, we can uncheck the hyphenate checkbox. And that's a little bit better. I don't like it on quite so many lines. You don't have to be this picky when you're laying yours out, but I'm going to put it on 11 points so I can get it somewhere around there. And I'm going to move this down a little bit so that this space and this space are the same, so that it's centered within that white space. Okay, well that's looking pretty good. Okay, so we've got all of our elements in here. There's just a few things I want to do. The background, I want to extend this background color throughout this whole thing. So we can actually push W on our keyboard. We want to grab the rectangle tool, which is next to the frame tool. Let's click and drag out a rectangle that actually is exactly the size of the bleed, all the way up to the edge of the kind of tan color, and let up. And then with that still selected, let's go to the eyedropper tool, which is great at sampling colors. And let's click about right here by his nose and click on the tan color. So that actually sampled that color, the eyedropper did, and it filled the interior of the rectangle with that tan color, which is exactly what we wanted. Let's go to the Properties panel, and down here under Quick Actions, let's do Arrange, Send Backward. Arrange, Send Backward, just a couple times. And let's go to the black arrow tool. Let's click off of everything to deselect everything, and let's push W. So that's what the back of the card should look like. Let's go ahead and scroll up and see the front of the card. So I think we need to position Bob a little bit further to the side so that we can, and actually, we're using the white arrow tool to drag the image out of the frame on purpose right now. And let's click and let's just, size it down using the white arrow tool. And let's put him off to the side a little bit so that he's not totally covering up the logo that we brought in. So go ahead and push W on your keyboard so that you can see the bleed line. That goes all the way around page 1. And let's go to the rectangle tool. Let's click and drag a rectangle out. We're going to do the same thing we did on page 2. Come to the edge of that gray all the way to the bleed line. And let's use the eyedropper tool and let's sample kind of over by his hair here and get that gray color to fill into the rectangle. And then let's do Arrange, Send Backward, Arrange, Send back. Arrange, Send Backward a couple times. And that should do it for that. Okay, so next up we're going to talk about the Links panel, which is underneath the Pages panel. It looks like a link, actually. So if we open this up, you can see all of the files that we've brought into our document. You cannot see this particular file because we actually copy-pasted that directly from InDesign. We did not do a file place to bring that in. But this is a great way to check your image resolution and your image color space. So all of our stuff is in RGB. But the effective PPI will actually tell us what our resolution of our images is, and the effective PPI is definitely the most important number. This is at 800. That's for the Bob Dylan illustration. The Bob Dylan portrait is 300 by 294. Definitely this first number is around 300, so that's great. That is actually fine. And the template file, we don't care what the resolution is on that. But if your images are lower than 300 PPI, the effective PPI, using the Links panel, if you're checking your images, then don't use those images. They're just too low resolution. I'm running out of time on this video as well, so next video we'll finish up this demo.